Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco, and Russell Jackman. And at each commercial break,
Guy who has nothing to follow his name with.
Well, what would you like us to follow it with? Esquire?
Well, yeah, renowned attorney and master of the contract.
Okay, there you go.
Which is why we have Mr. Russell Jackman on the show. And at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. And today it's New York prowess.
New York prowess. Okay, all right.
It all has to do with New York teams. Eddie
Sotelo will like this one. Russell Jackman might not.
Wait, what's that again?
Buddy Sotelo, my
Buddy
character,
Sotelo. That's right. Yes, the
from New
famed
York,
wrestling coach. Yes.
Manager.
Manager.
Yeah, but Russell Jackman might not do so well.
Well, that's okay. So all the questions are going to have to do with New York. So you won't have to worry about the Tampa Bay Rays or the Portland Trail Blazers or any of that. Actually, and I believe it's all baseball. So we're limiting it down. So you get kind of a limitation here. All right.
Knowing you, I would be shocked if it wasn't baseball.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hey, we're in baseball season. When it's football season, we try to shift a little bit more towards football.
It is always football season.
Well, that's true.
That's true.
That is true.
Very true.
And we've had a lot of basketball questions, so this time we thought we'd take a little break from that. All right, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments currently yielding over 7%, secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little golf after, unfortunately, what had happened this last weekend. A little bit of YouTube follower, Logan Paul. And we got like a whole bunch of different sports to cover here. So stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman, Esquire.
There we go.
Yeah, Esquire. I like that. Okay. All right, so let's start off with poor John Rahm having to withdraw after leading by 6 strokes, missing out on a $1.6 million purse. Obviously, there's no guarantee you would have won the tournament. But, man, you got to feel for a guy like that.
Yeah, especially after he had already had one COVID shot, but he was waiting for the second one, and then he went through the protocol. He got tested every day, but for whatever reason, he came in close contact with somebody infected, and then bam, the results came back.
And he had no symptoms.
He had no symptoms. No,
Boy,
no, but just imagine he finishes his round feeling great. He had a hole-in-one earlier in the day. Comes off there going, man, this tournament is mine. I'm up by 6 shots with 18 holes to play, and then they tell him on live TV. Yeah. And then his knees buckle. He just obviously emotionally affected. And
did he get a second?
That's just too bad.
Did he get an additional test just to make sure, because in case there was some kind of a false positive?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know.
Can you imagine if it comes out that someone tainted it or something, like there's some kind of, I'm not saying if there's a conspiracy, but can you imagine what a made-for-TV or made-for-movie?
I think given that level of security and protocol, I doubt that there was a mistake.
But it would definitely.
And I'm sure before he was informed, there was a check, double check. Wait, are you sure? Before they had to go over and tell him.
I'm sure we're. Wouldn't that be kind of an interesting episode for a TV show?
Yeah, it would make for a nice little screenplay.
Nice for a little screenplay, but
this is real life.
If there was anything that they could have done, force him to wear a mask, force their distance between him and other people, so that
this was an agreement. This was written up between the players, the PGA, the tournament itself. I mean, this was all etched in stone. This is the procedure. This is how we operate. This is how we go moving forward. And there's no 11th hour, well, let's work around this way. Gotcha, no. Everybody clearly understood what the rules were. And by rule, he had to
He
withdraw.
had to withdraw. And did they figure out where he got it from? Like who he was in contact with? I mean, because you guys are in contact with people all the time.
Well, I'm sure by now. I mean, I'm sure there's been a huge investigation because I mean he was out there playing for 4 hours, and so you have to check the person he was playing with. You
Yeah.
know, those caddies. I mean, everybody's got to be checked out.
Well, they all got tested too, right? Like him, just in general, to be able to be on the
Yeah,
course.
and then they
So
all came back negative. But as you
yeah,
know, I mean, if you're spending that much time on the course with a guy that is infected, I mean, those symptoms aren't going to show up until they're tested the next time, which is going to
yeah,
be next week.
yeah.
So
It's weird because supposedly he got one shot, he didn't get the second one, and
right,
here's kind of an interesting thing. If he had gotten the second shot, would he have potentially tested negative? Or what about the opposite? What if he didn't even take the first shot? Would he have even tested positive? Because don't they have
well,
to kind of
even after taking the second shot, I mean, there's still like a little 10-day window
yeah,
before
that's
you
what,
can get out there and play. Now, I think you can be tested for you have your regular COVID tests. Like
yeah.
I've had both of my shots, and we by CBS policy we still have to have a COVID test every week. I just had one yesterday as
Yeah.
we record this
I
show.
was about to ask that from you, Vern, which is that you're one of the few people I know that actually got COVID
Yeah,
and
I did.
recovered from it. So you still got your shots even though you had COVID.
Yeah, I had COVID early January, and then once I got through that, I got my first Pfizer shot on March 20th, and I got my second one on April 10th.
And you don't look any different. You look handsome as ever.
Yeah, well, yeah, I fake it. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
So,
yeah.
man, yeah. Anyway, that's you got to feel for a guy like that. Moving on here. I'm just gonna. Well, here, let's move on to this. Okay, so
Let me get this in before you
please,
jump in.
go ahead.
I really don't want the show to go much further before I mention this, and I'm sure Mr. Jackman will jump in. I certainly wish Dwayne Kuiper a
Yeah.
speedy recovery. For those of you tuning
Oh
in who don't
yes.
know, longtime Giants announcer Dwayne Kuiper announced that he has a medical setback. He didn't use the C word, but he said he has to immediately go through chemotherapy and is confident that he will get through this and return to the booth this year, this season. He says he's going to miss a few games and be away from the booth more than he normally would, but he's confident that he will be back. I'm confident of it too, but I just wanted to just shout out Dwayne Kuiper. It's kind of in the Bay Area Broadcasters Handbook. You must like the Kuiper brothers if you're going to work in this market.
Yeah. He's
And
great.
Dwayne is certainly one of the
Yeah.
best.
And because I know Kruko had gone, his
Yes.
partner in the booth had gone through quite a stint himself. I mean, when do you go through chemotherapy unless it is cancer?
Well, I hate to speculate, and if nobody is using the C word, I'm certainly not going to go on record
Sure.
by doing that unless it is actually reported as such by two sources. You kids out there wanting
That's
to go to
right.
broadcast school, you just you just can never assume exactly what it is. And I think out of respect, we should allow Dwayne Kuiper to detail when he wants what he's going through.
Yeah. It sounds like the broadcast people use what the Bible says, and that is you got to have at least two or more witnesses to
Gotta
corroborate
have it.
something.
Gotta
Yeah.
have it, and that is everything that's wrong with Twitter, because anybody with an opinion can just get in front of a keyboard, type what they want,
Yeah.
treat it as fact. People will read it and just run with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It used to be just I read it on the internet, so it's got to be true. Now it's I heard it on
Yeah,
Twitter, so it's got to be true.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
big problem with stuff like that is then suddenly it derails potentially anything that really is true.
yeah.
Because I heard it on Twitter. Well, so now it can't be true. Well, wait, maybe it is true.
Well, in
You're cutting in and out there, my friend. Oh, we lost. Where
with
are
me?
you?
Oh,
Okay,
there we
there
go.
you
Yeah. Sorry, I had an incoming call. I should have
are.
hit mute on that. Anyway, um, in this world of the new journalism,
Yeah,
where opinion and fact are kind of blended together,
yeah.
that's just kind of how we go with. But in our newsroom, the way we do it, the way it's done in television news and in radio news. If you're a serious journalist, you have to go old school and you have to go to credible sources before you can go public and state something.
I'm sure Mr. Jackman understands that, being Mr. Esquire.
Oh yes.
Yeah. You there? Are you there?
Well,
Yeah, there he is.
yeah. It's first of all, when you in this modern era, we've had a chance with cable to listen to other broadcast teams, and you listen to them like on ESPN and on the baseball network, and you really, at least I, get an even greater appreciation of Kruk and Kipe when I listen to other broadcasters and what kind of coverage they give their team. K
Hey,
and K
hey,
are
Russell, stay with that. We got to cut
yes.
to a quick break here.
Okay.
Russell doesn't have the clock with him, so he's driving. So he doesn't know if we have to go to break. All right, so we're
Even when
talking.
I do have the clock with me, I don't know.
That's right. We got to look at the clock.
Hmm.
Okay, here's our trivia theme: is New York prowess. All right, which New York franchise was the first to change their team name 3 times? That's our
Hmm.
trivia question. All right, email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question: which New York franchise was the first to change their name 3 times? And bonus questions if you can name all the team names. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Our first trivia question was, which New York franchise was the first to change their name 3 times?
I'll take a guess, and I'm going to say the New York Giants baseball team.
So what would they have changed it from?
I know they were the Gothams.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember the second name that they had. But then they moved on to the Giants.
Yeah. No, so they changed it twice, I think. They were weren't they the New York Knickerbockers also? Like just similar, but anyway, they only changed it twice, so that's not correct.
Oh.
Mr. Glenn.
All right. So,
All right.
so well, let's go with the boys that play in the pinstripes then.
That's what I thought. But
yeah, because weren't they the Highlanders?
They were the
And then
Highlanders.
yeah, but I can't remember the other name. Am I wrong about that? It is not
You're
the
wrong
Yankee
about that
organization?
only because we're looking for the first one to change it. It was actually the Dodgers. So they
Oh.
the franchise had changed their name actually 6 times before the end of the 19th century. They were the
Wow.
Brooklyn Atlantics, the Brooklyn Grays, the Brooklyn Grooms, the Brooklyn Bridegrooms, and then the Superbas. Superbas, I guess Superbas. Yeah, the Brooklyn Superbas, which, I mean, what a crazy name that one is.
Yeah.
Bridegrooms.
I know, the
Bridegrooms.
Bridegrooms.
That would not have been a great marketable.
They had
era.
to play in a tux and tie and a top hat.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why they didn't win too many games. All
And
right.
so they went with Dodgers because the Brooklynites they would have to dodge the
Trolleys.
the streetcars
Yeah,
and the
that's how they got their
trolleys
name.
that would kind of go by, and I just kind of
Yeah.
okay, all right.
They were the
Okay.
Brooklyn Trolley Dodgers, and then they just shortened it to Dodgers. And then we moved out here, even though you didn't really have to dodge trains anymore. I guess they just kind of decided it was okay to just keep the name.
Well, the
Okay.
truth is, in LA, they did have to dodge trains for a little while, and then thanks to the conspiracy by Firestone Tires and General Motors, they got rid of all the buses and all the trains in LA.
Well, we're talking trolley cars, which is a little different than a train, but like the street cars, like they have.
Yeah, the red line. They got rid of the red
yeah.
line in LA. Thanks to.
Okay. So all right. So maybe it worked for the first time for a while. Okay. So
Yes.
20 million YouTube follower Logan Paul outweighed Mayweather by 35 pounds and 6 inches taller. Now they did it was just an exhibition fight. And Mayweather, I like that. He says, "Wait, don't win fights." And I don't know. Did he earn what somewhere $50 to $100 million for that
Yeah,
fight?
don't win fights, but it does win money.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um, so I guess that fight happened on Sunday, and it went the whole 6 rounds. I think everything was kind of unless you paid to watch it, you didn't really get to see too much. But go ahead.
I'm wondering when Butterbean comes back. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're just like a scintilla of irresponsibility back, and we can just bring him back in, and it's ridiculous. Why don't we get Mr. T to get
Yeah.
back in the ring and fight some fights?
Well, this guy Logan Paul. I mean, I don't know these YouTube follower guys, but I mean, he makes a lot of money with all of these followers, and apparently, he got all these followers by just doing these really short 6-second videos. And I mean, you look at him in the ring, and he
I know. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing wrong?
I guess it's for the younger folks, and I guess he's got a brother who's got all the tattoos on him, and I mean, these guys. I mean, you got to give them credit for being smart.
Well, I know that Logan fought a previous bout. I know he trained hard for it, won the fight.
No, he lost.
And was
he lost
impressive
that
with that. He lost that one?
He lost that one, yeah.
He entered, last one?
Yeah,
his last bout?
Yeah, he entered 0-1.
Maybe I'm thinking about something else. Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, in any event, there was one sequence in that fight where Mayweather caught him. I mean, caught him good, and it looked like he was sort of kind of leaning forward, like he could go down, but he kind of fell on Mayweather, kind of held him up. And I just wonder if I wonder if there's something going on in there to make sure that this fight would go the distance. I have no idea though.
Good point. Yeah. I mean,
Mayweather, he would never reveal that.
Yeah.
But this is more of what's turning boxing into the sideshow and taking away anything from what used to be what was called the sweet science to now it's a lot more like pro wrestling.
Well, I think part of it is the popularity of MMA fighting. But it's interesting because my next question was going to be what's with the deal with all these NFL players entering the boxing ring, like Ocho Cinco and some other guys, where there was a time when some of these NFL players would retire and then they would either go into wrestling or boxing. I mean, even Jose Canseco went into the boxing ring, at some point.
Well, there's something to be said for maintaining a lifestyle when your playing days are over, and then you look back and you miss those game checks. Those game checks aren't coming in anymore. I mean, those big paydays are not coming in anymore. And
you're still young.
And you're still young.
Yeah.
And you want to maintain this lifestyle. And so what do? Well, you use your celebrity and you go for a money grab.
Yeah.
That happens. That happens more than you think.
Yeah, and as long as you don't get super hurt, I mean, the training part of it is a good way to stay in shape, at least. That's
you can always take a dive. You can always take the dive, and
like
Mayweather said himself. Yeah, Mayweather said himself he's a bank robber. He basically is. He told everyone, if you think this is too ridiculous, don't watch it. And yet, I think that he made $60 million,
something like that. Yeah,
off of the audience.
Well, he says he did, but
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, how many people paid to watch the fight? I'm not sure. I mean, that's the thing. Well, you think about it. Logan Paul's got 20 million followers. You got to figure at least half of those people probably paid, right? It was like $17 or something. I mean, it doesn't cost you that much to see your favorite YouTube guy do it. I don't know. So I'm going to ask you guys kind of an interesting question here. Is why is
we have hundreds of millions of people in this country, so
yeah, and they're all we've still got COVID issues of staying home and Netflixing and everything else. So curious, guys. I'm moving on. I'm going to move on to like women's tennis for just a minute. Why is it that teenage women tennis players can play at such a high competitive level as compared to men's tennis? And I'd include golf in there too. What I mean by that is, like, you don't see a 17-year-old boy, generally speaking, in the high rankings of tennis, whereas you can easily see a 16-year-old girl in the high rankings of women's tennis. Same thing with golf. So there's some 16-year-old women golfers who are just as on par with the best of them, but you don't see too
Well,
many.
a teenager just won the Women's U.S. Open. Here it
Which is
is.
why I brought that up. You know,
Just
uh,
a
I mean, I know that.
19-year-old.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how young was like guys like Michael Chang and those guys when they might have been 18 or 19, but it's kind of an anomaly. Usually because the guys, I guess, you just get bigger and stronger at age 35. Well, not 35, but let's say in their late 20s and early 30s. And I guess maybe that's the reason is the women kind of plateau, and they don't get that bigger, stronger, more athletic as they get older. Do you think that's what I mean? I'm talking just it's a physiological thing, I think.
There's
Really,
also
yeah.
a big money incentive. I mean, there's also a lot of money. Tennis is just not that big. Men's tennis just doesn't generate the kind of views that women's tennis does and that other men's sports do. So men are tempted to, go into basketball or go into baseball or something, where there's a bigger payoff than pro tennis, which doesn't really offer that same kind of payday.
I don't think the athlete chooses the sport based on the money that you can make, though.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the God-given talent that you have as you're growing up and what you and where your passions go.
Hello,
It
bowling.
it just so happens that it's all about eyeballs, it's all about revenue, it's all about advertising, and the thing that sells here in this country is football, contact sport, made for TV, baseball, basketball. These are all just main sports that people know. Now you have more of the specialized sports, tennis, golf, what have you, and although there's advertising dollars there, the numbers are on the small side when it comes to those participating compared to the big three, so to speak.
Yeah, but getting back to the question though about
the teenagers. I'm not a man of science, but I would have to guess the men's game. It's all about power. It's all about that 100-mile serve and whatnot. And the men are bigger and stronger, and the women, although they are strong and gifted and just absolutely terrific, it's more of a serve and volley, strategic, and then just going for the attack.
And a 16-year-old versus a 22-year-old is not going to be that much different in women's sports as it is with men. That's got to be
right. And so when Venus Williams first burst on the scene, she was all about the power game.
Yeah,
and she was unlike she was unlike the Chris Everett's of the world that was serving volley and create an unforced error or whatever. Venus came in and just went, boom, couple of hits, and then boom, she's at the net for a smash.
Okay, guys, the next trivia question: which of the 4 New York teams was managed by Gil Hodges? Stay with us, Sport Econ 101. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Sport Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Second trivia question: which of the 4 New York teams was managed by Gil Hodges? Because again, we're talking New York prowess is our trivia theme.
Well, let's see here.
The Mets? Was that the Mets?
It was the Mets.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I think wasn't he the first one because they came out in '62, I think, and I think he. It's funny because I wanted to make sure that you knew that.
I think the first manager of the Mets, I thought it was like Leo DeRocher or something like that. I thought maybe. right when they started, they had a name guy manage the team.
Yeah.
He may not have stuck around long, but
yeah. I'll have to look back, but '62 was I think the first year that the Mets.
That is true. That is correct.
That.
Yeah.
Except for the New York Metropolitan.
It used to be the great expression, that'll be when the Mets will win the pennant. That was usually, in New York, what people would say when they say something would never happen.
Well, that was going back in time. Yeah, they were pretty darn bad in the beginning.
Yeah, I got the list here. Yeah, Casey Stengel was the first
Casey
manager.
Stengel was
Casey Stengel, 1962 to 65. Then Wes Westrom came in, 65 to 67. Then Salty Parker, interim manager. So they must have given Westrom the ziggy. And then after that, Gil Hodges came in and managed from 1968 to 71.
Oh, okay. So he managed in the
So he
World
was
Series.
So when they won the World Series, he was the
That's
manager.
right. Okay, the amazing Mets. That was one of my favorite teams too, as a kid. Moving on here, what's happening with Aaron Rodgers? What's the skinny on that?
Well, he's been a no-show at all of these Packers training plan off-season things, and it's back and forth. I mean, it's certainly not about money. There's something else going on, and all we can go on is what's being reported, and what's being reported is that he has some issues with the organization and has chosen to try and move on now. But everything's a negotiation, so both sides will continue to talk. It's not like Aaron has to be there for OTAs. I mean, come
True.
on.
No,
I mean,
no, true.
he knows the playbook like the back of his hand. That playbook is not changing.
No.
So he can show up in July if he wants and take over like he never left. I mean, he's just. I mean, come on. It's Aaron Rodgers.
I mean,
He's the future.
what do you do with a guy who basically is disgruntled, who doesn't want to play? I mean, do you bench him, pay all that money to bench him? I mean, what does that do to the culture around,
No,
with
you
all the other
did.
players?
No. You deal him. You got to deal him. You got to deal him if it's that bad.
Well,
you
I
got to
still
deal
think,
him.
that's why I still think, Deshaun Watson may be a Packer, or we might see a Russell Wilson trade, or they may wait until some other team, has a devastating quarterback injury, which is inevitable. It happens every year, and then say,
how disgruntled is Wilson with the Seahawks?
I think he's pretty disgruntled.
He publicly says the right things, but there are some grumblings, some behind the scenes grumblings. But let's come on. It's as we record this show, it's June 8th. So if something's going to have to be done, it's going to have to be done over the course of the next month. I mean, because this training camp's coming around. You just get and the most important position that you have. I mean, you have to have him in there to run the offense.
Yeah.
And if Aaron is going to play for somebody else, as smart as a guy he is, that's a whole different playbook with a whole different set of terminology.
Then again, we saw Tom Brady switch on over to Tampa Bay, and he took the Super Bowl with him.
Yeah, but he didn't turn around and join the team in late June.
True.
I bet you he could have and done just as well.
Probably.
We'll never know.
But
you know what? We'll never know.
What are the behind the scenes issues with Wilson with the Seahawks?
I think that Wilson's not too happy that Seattle was in the running for Julio Jones, and they didn't wind up with him. He just signed officially today with Tennessee, and Tennessee didn't give up that much to bring Julio on board. I think
Tennessee gave up 3 2023 draft picks. That's a lot. They gave up a 2, a 4, and a 6. Well, true.
Yeah,
it's leveraging it for 3 years from now or 2 years from now, so they can win today and not pay the price for a couple of years, and who knows what kind of trades they can make between now and then to shore up the missing draft picks that they've given away for this deal. But I think that it was something that is again sort of a sign to Russell Wilson that Seattle is not really willing to go to the mat to get him the resources he needs to win another Super Bowl.
Good. All right.
Well,
and I think that
we'll
makes
find
him
out.
mad.
It's going to be an interesting 4 weeks. That's I'll say that.
Hey, let's move on to a little basketball. Do you think the Suns are the favorite now? What about the Nets?
No, Brooklyn is.
You still think Brooklyn? I mean, those
Brooklyn
Suns.
is Brooklyn has steamrolled. I mean, Edward, they led the Milwaukee Bucks, a really good team. The number one, they led them by 49 points at one point.
And they were just toying with them.
So
Blake Griffin looks like he's Blake Griffin looks like he's a teenager. I mean, I have never seen someone go from being so much in the doldrums when he was playing in Detroit to literally just a man on fire with Brooklyn right now.
It just lets you know what a change of scenery can do when you join a team where you're not the featured star. It's the big three, and then Blake Griffin joins.
It really was the big two because Harden's not there.
True.
And
yeah.
they even benched DeAndre Jordan, who was their starting center, and put in Blake Griffin in his place. And Blake Griffin was his Kia jumping slam dunk champion self last night. And he was hitting threes, and he was taking charges. And, I mean, Blake Griffin wants a title so badly because of all those years playing for the Clippers and being second fiddle to the Warriors and watching the Warriors, win 3 titles while they were, waiting in the wings and hoping that they'd have a chance. So I think Blake Griffin is going to make the most out of what he's.
And with Detroit, he didn't. He looked even worse.
Terrible. Yeah. He looked like he was ready to retire, and I thought he was going to.
He was hurt.
And Brooklyn got him for nothing. I mean, they did not have to trade anything for him. He came on board basically for free.
Almost like they got him off the strap heat, but I'll be curious to see what I'll be curious to see what happens when the series shifts back to Milwaukee in Wisconsin, where there are no crowd restrictions. I mean, it's going to be a packed house, and we'll see if that team can feed off the energy of the crowd, screaming behind him, and all eyes will be on Giannis Antetokounmpo and the rest of those guys to see if they can have an answer.
Say that name again. I like the way you say that.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo. Yeah, he apparently he looked a little out of sorts before. So hopefully he'll get his act together. All right. Anything else you guys want to cover before we cut out to our next break? We got about another 3 minutes.
Well, I'd like to address a little bit of the 49ers. Some sad news came out of their OTAs. I mean, they lost 2 key backup players in School, who was an offensive tackle, and then Tavarius Moore, who was a backup safety. So it's I wish it was best news, but out of Santa Clara, they've got some depth issues there. In a state, OTAs, where you wouldn't expect to have School go down with a torn ACL. I mean, he's done. And then you've got Tavarius Moore, who tore his Achilles, and he's done for a calendar year.
Wow. But before we cut to a break, didn't our favorite Mr. Vern Glenn win some other award recently?
Oh, you mean another one of these?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so is that like 4 in a row? 3 in a row? 4 in a row?
It's 4 in a row.
4 in a row.
4 in a row. Yeah.
And how many other people do you have to quote compete with?
Well, I really don't know how many in our region, which encompasses all of Northern California, all of Nevada, all of Oregon and Hawaii. So out of those, it's kind of a wave of hoops you have to jump through. You have the initial group of people that enter their best performances, and then our stuff is judged by another market.
Oh,
okay. we were judged by the Dallas market, which makes it fair because they don't know us, we don't know him, and so through that judging, you have to have a certain amount of points to be able to be eligible to be even nominated. And so if you get enough points, then you go to the next level where you're actually nominated. You're on that nominated list, and then usually it's 2 or 3 people that you're vying against, And then the ones that get the most points wins the award.
And I'll bet each year it's like you got to be the favorite, and so the people are going, okay, we already know this guy's like, we put him in the finals already, you know, and in other words, someone's got to do something fantastic to dethrone you, I would think.
Well, we'll say we'll go for a little drive for 5, one for the thumb.
Yeah, that's right.
For next year. Well, we'll see what happens then. But it's a humbling honor. It was nice to be a recipient of that, and it was nice to be a presenter this time on the show.
Yeah, you know what I say when it comes time to contract negotiations, you just bring those trophies in with you to CBS. And say
if it was only that easy.
Yeah, just say, I'm going to let my trophies do my talking for me.
Yeah.
My good negotiation. Oh man, that'll be great. Okay, so our last trivia question has to do with, again, we're talking New York prowess. Which of the four, basically, which of the New York teams was the first to win, we're talking baseball, of course, to win 100 games in a season? So which New York team was the first to win 100 games in a season? And,
the New York prowess, of course.
Wait, say again?
The New York prowess.
The New York prowess, yes, of course. Yeah, that's the name of the team, right? If you, we'll give you extra bonus points if you can.
It's better than bridegrooms, by the way.
Wait, what about the bridegrooms?
Naming your team the prowess.
It's probably better than
It's
the
better than
bridegrooms.
naming your team the bridegrooms.
Yeah, if it was the Pink Ladies, it wouldn't be too intimidating. Okay, we're going to give you bonus points if you can give me the year too. But which of the 4 New York teams, I guess it was 4 at the time, was the first to win 100 games in a season? All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Our third trivia question about New York prowess is, which New York team was the first to win 100 games in a season? Obviously, we're talking baseball.
Well, the Yankees are too obvious, so I'm going to go. Which New York team?
Yeah, it's got to be a New York team.
But only a baseball team, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, go with the Dodgers.
They didn't play basketball.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the Giants.
You are correct. The Giants. Now, give me the year.
1912.
1904.
Ah.
And what was the record?
I have no idea. That I can't answer.
106 wins and 47 losses. So back then they played 153 games, which is pretty. Yeah, then it got down to 152 for quite a while.
But did they win the World Series in 1904?
In 04, there was one year that McGraw would not let them. No, they didn't win because there was no World Series in 04 because John McGraw said, that was an American League team. That's a Bush League. We're not going to play the World Series. We're not going to play a game. So they literally there was no World Series, and I believe it was 04. Yeah, because you had the Boston Pilgrims before that. With Cy Young and all those kind of fun guys. Okay, you guys ready? Here's our thoughts for the day.
Okay.
The secret of happiness is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. I guess being content, right? Socrates said that just before he drank the hemlock. And no matter how many mistakes you make or how slow your progress, you are still way ahead of everyone who isn't trying. Tony Robbins. Isn't that true? Tony Robbins said that. And lastly, my ex-wife still misses me, but unfortunately her aim is starting to improve.
Yeah, that one is
Yeah, that one. Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
Adios.